It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. Time to preview a very pivotal series. LSU welcomes in the Vanderbilt Commodores for a 3-game set, getting ready to get underway Thursday evening at Alex Box Stadium. They will go Thursday, Friday, and Saturday versus Vandy, and pivotal is one word to describe it. LSU really needs to get this one, and we've talked really for the better part now of almost 2 weeks that this is a winnable weekend for LSU, but it's not going to obviously come without its challenges. Vandy's a very good team, but Vandy's a very weird team so far this season. We will get into all of it here over the next 30 minutes or so to get you set up for this weekend's action. Smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on all social media. All of that greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start, as always, with our series overview. LSU comes in ranked number 18 in the country, as high as number 18 in the country, I should say. 20-10 overall, 2-7 in the SEC. LSU has lost 4 straight games. They have lost 6 of 7, and they have lost 5 straight league games. To say they're looking for a turnaround is an understatement. Vanderbilt comes in ranked as high as number 6 in the nation, 23-6 overall, 6-3 in the SEC. Vanderbilt swept their opening weekend against Auburn, got swept on the road at South Carolina before sweeping last week at Missouri. When you look at Vanderbilt, just from a statistical overview, they hit 300 as a club. That number drops to 279 when you get into conference play. And on the mound, they have a team ERA of 3.61. It has been even better in SEC play at 3.04. So a team that has struggled a little bit offensively, but has been dominant on the mound. That's a bit of an overview. We'll obviously get a little bit more deeper into Vanderbilt and LSU as we go forth. The Tigers lead the overall series 61-47. Thursday will be the 109th meeting between LSU and Vanderbilt. The Vandy boys have won 8 of the past 10 regular season series between the schools, but LSU did claim the last meeting a 3-game sweep of the doors in Nashville to close out the 2022 regular season. All right, that is your overview. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. And where we always start is with the starting rotations. This is a bit of an interesting week where neither team at the time of this recording has announced their starting rotation. Jay Johnson met with the media on Wednesday, and was asked if he had at least settled on his starting rotation. Here's what he said.
I have, but we're not going to announce it because I don't know what Vanderbilt's doing, and I understand. I mean, they had a doubleheader on Sunday like 2 weeks ago, and these Thursday things, it may seem not a big deal, but it's a big deal, man. I mean, if one of those 2 guys go down because we pitched them too early, it's going to get real hard. It's already really hard, and I'm not about to do that. Not to say that we won't, but I need a full evaluation of today, and then we'll set it. I mean, as early as we have to, but probably not any earlier than that.
All right, so probably not overly surprising there from Jay Johnson. He's really consistent with that. If the other team is not announced, he's not going to announce anything of that nature. But there are clues you can surmise as to who will be getting the ball for LSU, and the same thing with Vanderbilt. So that's what we'll go ahead and do here. By that, I mean, if you look at LSU, Thatcher Hurd pitched out of the bullpen, obviously, over the weekend at Arkansas. He also pitched out of the bullpen on Monday night versus Southern. When you just look at rest, what a pitcher needs to do to start, it would make sense that Thatcher Hurd will not be in the starting rotation for LSU. Luke Holman and Gage Jump very well should be. They've been there consistently. They've been 2 of your more leaned on starters, 2 of the guys they've trusted most in that role. They'd be on normal quote-unquote normal rest. We'll get into order where you might place them momentarily, but it stands to reason that they are going to make starts this weekend. As for that number 3 spot, just about anything is on the table, except for, as we mentioned there, probably not Thatcher Hurd, but at the same time, probably, maybe, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. You could see some maybe uncharacteristic moves, potentially. I don't know, because it goes back to what we said off the top of the show. You've lost 4 in a row. You've lost 6 of 7. You've lost 5 straight league games. You have to find a combination that's going to work. The one thing I will say is I will be flat out floored if Luke Holman and Gage Jump don't both get a start. So who else could fill into that 3rd spot? Well, Cade Anderson started on Monday night. He threw a pretty healthy dose of pitches in that ball game. Momentarily here, if you hold for me, I'll get you the exact number. So it would just make sense that it's probably not him. And do you really want him to make his first career SEC start against the number 6 team in the country? Probably not. Cade Anderson threw 48 pitches. Probably won't be him. When you look at what LSU did last weekend against Arkansas, they ran out Javen Coleman, Luke Holman. Wow, say that 5 times fast. They ran out Javen Coleman, Luke Holman, and then Gage Jump. You could keep guys on your normal rest if you wanted to at that point. I will tell you this. When it comes to Thursday night, this week, I am not in favor of LSU pitching off. I was last week because of the situation that you were in, facing a guy like Hagen Smith. It was going to be an uphill climb regardless. And look, LSU, despite some deficiencies they had in that ball game, walking 11 guys, striking out 19 times, they were right there heading into the bottom of the 8th inning. They even had a lead on Hagen Smith at one point. But given, his pedigree, what he's done to teams this year, what he's done to you in his history in college, that move made sense to me. That move would not make sense to me here. I understand you heard Jay there in the cut talk about, the Thursday thing's a real deal, and you want to protect the arms, and if one of them, goes down because you pitched him too early, things are going to get really hard. That's fine. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't believe him. But what I'm going to tell you is the same thing I told you last week about them pitching off. Jay Johnson can say whatever he wants. There is absolutely going to be an ulterior motive here. And the ulterior motive that needs to be had is you got to win a damn baseball game. You have lost 4 straight conference games. You have lost 6 of 7. You have lost 5 conference games in a row. How many more times can I repeat that? Spoiler, there'll be a few more times. You need to win Thursday night. You need your best pitcher going, and that's Luke Holman. That's what I want to see. And for that reason, I would not be okay if LSU pitched off this weekend. Now, again, they haven't announced at the time that we're doing this episode, but Luke Holman's going to get a start this weekend, and I think it needs to be Thursday night. Like I said, I think Gage Jump is going to get a start this weekend. I would like that to be Friday. And then you say, okay, Musso, who starts on Saturday in game number 3? And I will give you this. Because how many games has LSU lost in a row? How many? They've 6 of 7, right? How many conference games has LSU lost in a row? 5? I'll tell you honestly, whoever you got left. Whoever you got left. Because LSU needs wins. And in order to get those wins, they need all hands on deck. All hands on deck. You can have a plan of who you want to start in game number 3, but if you need that person to close out a win on Friday night, on Thursday night, or you need a person to close out a win and potentially take the series on Friday, you use that person, and whoever you have left, you throw them to start game number 3. That could be Javen Coleman. That could be Christian Little. That could be all the guys that have starting experience on this. That could be Sam Dutton. It could be Griffin Herring. I know a lot of people have thrown him out there. I'm not saying it won't be him. I'm just saying that guy's been your most trusted bullpen arm, and I'd be surprised if it were him. for the path I'm going down here. You're in position to close out a game. You throw whoever you have to do that, because right now you need wins. So from the starting rotation perspective that I will tell you, I think Holman and Jump definitely get starts. And outside of that, whoever you got left, you go ahead and throw. And I want to see Luke Holman start on Thursday night. Now, when Holman and Jump get those starts, what do you want to see? Well, bounce back, because both of them need it again. It's been interesting. You've had 3 SEC series, road, home, road. The 2 road series, they both struggled a little bit. In the home series, they were both really good. I mean, Holman was dominant. Struck out a career-high 13. Jump really battled hard and got you into the 6th inning and had you in a position to win that ball game. They were both very good last time at home. You need to replicate that here, help LSU get wins, and then when you turn around and go on the road to Tennessee in a week, we can talk about what they need to do to improve on the road and become more consistent, I should say, on the road. But at home, they've proven to pitch very well. You need them to do that again for you this weekend, especially against the Vanderbilt offense that's going through it a little bit right now and has been inconsistent kind of throughout the season anyway. We'll get to that a little bit momentarily. Now, the same way we can deduce from clues what LSU might do in the rotation, you can for Vanderbilt as well. When Vanderbilt came into this season, it was very much like LSU. Okay, the offense is going to take a little bit to come along. Hopefully they do at some point. But, man, you're stacked on the mound, and especially starting. You were looking at guys like Carter Holton, who everyone should know that name. Devin Futrell, everyone should know that name when you're talking about Vanderbilt. Bryce Cunningham got some run last year. Of course, there's Grayson Carter, who's going into his junior season at Vanderbilt. There are names that you knew. Devin Futrell has hit the skids a little bit this year. He got an ERA over 5. He's really struggled to keep the ball in the yard. He leads Vanderbilt in home runs given up so far on the season. And they made a change in their rotation last week at Missouri. Keep in mind, Vanderbilt was also playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now they have a chance to just stay on same rest. The rotation that Vanderbilt went with against Missouri was interesting because Grayson Carter got the game 1 start on Thursday. Bryce Cunningham went Friday, and Carter Holton, who is their ace, went on Saturday. Now, all 3 of them pitched incredible. I'm not telling you that's the order Vanderbilt's going to go in, but because you can keep guys on the same rest, because they were so effective last week in those roles, I think I'd be kind of surprised if Vanderbilt moved off of those 3. Again, it might not be the same order, but I'd be surprised if they move off of those 3. And given rest and whatnot, and you look at a guy like Carter Holton, who's already had to miss a start this year because of a precautionary arm deal. Do you really want to move him up 2 days and have him start on Thursday? Probably not. So I think there's a possibility that they do keep that same rotation, same order. Let's talk about those guys a little bit individually, shall we? And we'll go ahead and start with Grayson Carter. Told you he was awesome in that game against Missouri. You are looking at 8 1/3, 1 unearned run given up with 11 strikeouts. It's a big fastball that's going to live in the upper 90s, might touch triple digits. The interesting thing with that is even given those type of numbers, it hasn't necessarily been so overpowering. Just 24 strikeouts in 21 1/3. It's a lot of weak contact, though. A lot of ground balls from a guy like Grayson Carter. Control, if you just look at the number, 13 walks in 21 1/3. That's a little bit higher than you want, but he had 1 outing this year where he walked 7 guys. So you're looking at a guy who's appeared in 6 games. Half of his walks, more than half of his walks technically, came in 1 outing. So he's really settled in after that. That's what you're looking at from a perspective of Grayson Carter. I should I guess I should also mention he's a big righty, 6'4", right-hander is Carter. You go to Bryce Cunningham, another big stock righty, 6'5", good arm from Cunningham as you would expect. Obviously coming from Vanderbilt. Told you he pitched game number 2 against Missouri. 7 shutout innings. He gave up 1 hit and struck out 12. That earned him SEC Pitcher of the Week. So he is your reigning SEC Pitcher of the Week. Again, you saw him get some run kind of last year in the rotation as well as Vanderbilt dealt with some injuries. He's been very, very good. Has Cunningham low to mid-90s on the fastball with some pretty solid breaking stuff, obviously, to complement that. If a guy's going to get through a lineup multiple times like you expect in this league, that's what you get. And then you have Carter Holton, who's the lefty and a veteran arm in this league. He was likewise awesome in his start against Missouri. Y'all, Vanderbilt in those 3 games, each starter went 7 innings, and they gave up just 1 earned run combined. Each starter went at least 7 innings. Like, Carter went 8 1/3. Cunningham and Holton both went 7. And they gave up 1 earned run total over that. That is dominant. I know, it's Missouri. They're not good. I don't care. To do that to Division I hitters, that is dominant. So, when you look at Holton from the left side, not going to be overpowering stuff. Low 90s, maybe run up to the mid a little bit there. And a classic lefty breaking ball. Man, that is just a real tough matchup for left-handed hitters. The interesting thing is, and I'll be curious to see, LSU, when they face lefty starters this year, have gone really heavy right-handed hitters. The only lefty that's normally been in that lineup has been Josh Pearson. So we will see how they attack that way. That's what I think from Vanderbilt perspective, from a starting rotation, and a little bit of background on those guys. Let's dive a little bit deeper into Vanderbilt now, single out some guys, and then we'll get to our keys for LSU in a series prediction. Let's stick with the pitching staff since, that's where we are. What I hope you all took away from that with the starting rotation is how important starting pitching is for Vanderbilt. They need their guys to go deep into the game like that if they're to make it through an entire weekend. Vanderbilt has a good bullpen, a very good bullpen, but they do not have a deep bullpen. I can go down here and I can see 5 guys that they really, really lean on. Miller Green, Ryan Ginther, Brennan Cyber, Ethan McIlvain, and Alex Kranzler. Out of those 5, 4 of them are freshmen. So not only are they not very deep, they're young. We went through this with Florida. Florida brought in a lot of freshman arms out of the bullpen when they came to Baton Rouge, and you had massive crowds, and credit to them, they pitched really well. How will Vanderbilt's freshman arms do at Alex Box? Well, we'll see. Because I expect, and I'm hopeful, that there will be big crowds once again out here for these 3 games. When you look at a few of them, let's start with Ryan Ginther. He's their closer. He's a junior. Out of that group, he's the one who's the veteran. 9 appearances on the year with 4 saves. It's not overpowering, about a K per inning. But he's a guy they really, really trust at the back end of a ball game, and he can go multiple innings on the saves. Everyone else we'll highlight is a true freshman. Brennan Cyber, 11 appearances. Also 4 saves, so they can use him in a variety of different ways. But you'll probably see him, well, I don't know, I guess you really could see Ginther close out one game, Cyber close out another, potentially. I mean, I think that's something Vanderbilt would like, especially if they're getting length out of their starters. But like Ginther, can go multiple innings. It's not just a one-inning save from a guy like Brennan Cyber. Miller Green, true freshman lefty. Big pitch for him, curveball. Very, very good curveball. He'll throw it at any count to any hitter. They've used him 10 times out of the pen, and he has been very, very effective in a 0.69 ERA. 0.69. Ethan McIlvain, another freshman lefty. His brother pitched there. You might remember Chris. It's a big arm for McIlvain. Fastball from the left side will get to the mid-90s, maybe run it up to the upper 90s occasionally. And the slider is absolutely filthy. They've used him 8 times. The interesting thing there, control. 11 walks in 19 innings. It can get away from him a little bit, so you do have to watch that. And in the same vein, kind of as we talked about with Grayson Carter, while the fastball is, powerful, the stuff hasn't been overpowering, if that makes any sense from a number standpoint. Only the 21 strikeouts in 19 innings. And then there's Alex Kranzler. 9 appearances, more of a kind of an inning per outing guy, just on average, from a average standpoint of what it looks like. Of those 9 appearances, 10 2/3. But a guy that they trust an awful lot out of the bullpen. There's obviously other guys you could go through, but they just don't have a lot of experience so far. That's why for LSU, it will be incredibly key to have a great plan and get these starters out of the game early to potentially force Vanderbilt to go to some guys out of the bullpen that they haven't necessarily relied on a ton this year. And hopefully that's where LSU can make some hay. Obviously, that will all be much easier said than done. Now, here's the thing I want to point out about Vanderbilt's pitching staff, because I think when you go through it for them, you go just look at the schedule and you see they pitched pretty well against Auburn, but I think Auburn might be really your more honest representation of what this Vanderbilt staff is. Carter Holton started the first game of that series, and he was awesome. Gave up 1 run in 7 innings. Excuse me. He gave up 5 in the in the middle game. Only 1 of them was earned. We're going to get to that momentarily. And then in game number 3, you had to come from behind. Vanderbilt came back, won that game 9-6. Devin Futrell started that. Of all 6 runs Auburn, they were earned. Now, keep in mind, Futrell's out. That's a solid pitching weekend for Vanderbilt. You flip that onto the South Carolina weekend, and they gave up 26 runs, but the defense let them down incredibly in that series. Vanderbilt committed 5 errors in that series. It was very similar to the game we just mentioned, the middle game of that Auburn series, where they gave up 5 runs, but only 1 of them was earned. Defense has been a little of a problem for Vanderbilt so far the first 3 weeks in the SEC. 8 errors in 9 conference games so far. So if you're LSU, take advantage. They give you a gift, you have to make it hurt badly, because that's where teams have gotten Vanderbilt so far in conference play, is a lot of unearned runs. So to review what we want to see from LSU attacking, because look, y'all, I'm going to be quite honest with you. This doesn't feel like the week for LSU to break out going up against this pitching staff. It just doesn't. Now, if they can go in with a very good plan and force the starters out of the game early and get into that Vanderbilt bullpen, okay. If you take advantage of any little mistake, any open door they give you, okay, you have a chance to have some success. But that's what's going to have to happen. Where LSU's really going to have to win this series is on the mound with their pitchers. And that's where we're going to go here momentarily. But just keep that in mind. That shows you kind of the Vanderbilt, you've just seen so many different ends of the spectrum with them, where they gave up 26 runs against South Carolina, but there was defensive problems. Where they gave up one earned run over the course of an entire weekend, but it was Missouri, they stink. That's why I say that Auburn series, where you had a dominant outing from Holton, a rough outing from your defense that cost your pitchers, but you still won, and then an outing where your pitching struggled a little bit and you had to come from behind. But you made a change and got that guy out of the rotation. That kind of led to that. But that's really more of their honest weekend right there. Offensively, let's talk about Vanderbilt offensively. So, you want to talk about weird. You look at that Auburn series, and Vanderbilt scored 11 runs in game 1, 13 runs in game number 2, 9 runs in game number 3. Since then, Vanderbilt has not scored more than 4 runs in a baseball game. And the SEC stats show it. Like, if I'm looking at SEC statistics here for Vanderbilt, I see Jonathan Vastine is hitting .355 in conference play. The majority of that came against Auburn. I look at a guy like Alan Espinal. Espinal's hitting .333 in conference play. Alan Espinal had 8 hits in that Auburn series. 8 hits in that Auburn series. He has 3 more hits over the next 2 conference weekends. 3, after having 8. It's dropped a little bit. Vastine, Jaden Davis, guy got off to a great start as well in conference play. He's 1 for his last 20 at the plate. This is an offense that is struggling right now. Since game 3 of Auburn, when they scored 9 runs, they have not scored more than 4 in a game since. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. LSU's pitching has got to take advantage of that. You are more than talented enough. Vandy's got some really good players. Don't get me wrong. But man, these should be low-scoring games. And this is where you have to see the talent for LSU on the mound shine through. Everything we talked about earlier this week, the 2 biggest issues for LSU's pitching staff so far, leadoff men, 2 out base runners. You cannot have those this weekend because that is going to make all the difference in games that we expect to be tightly contested and low scoring. What did we say? 40 or 35% of the leadoff men in the last 12 games have reached base, and more than half of them have reached for free. 89 2-out base runners in the last 12 games have resulted in 46 runs for the other team. That's how you allow a struggling offense like Vanderbilt to break out. Now, one thing that's going to be massive is that leadoff man conversation. Because also when you look at Vanderbilt, they are get them on, get them over, get them in. Vanderbilt is second in the SEC in stolen bases with 59 out of 66 attempts. R.J. Austin at the top of the order, while he hadn't been setting the world on fire in the SEC, is hitting .351 total on the year and has 16 stolen bases to lead this team. You let that guy get on at the top of the order, that's going to kickstart this offense. You look at a guy like Calvin Hewitt, 15 stolen bases, second on the team. You let that guy get on to start an inning, that's going to jumpstart it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different Vanderbilt Commodores have stolen at least 1 base this year. LSU has got to keep the leadoff man off base this weekend, and especially limit putting them on for free. Make them earn it. Make them earn it. The other thing that LSU shouldn't have to contend with this weekend is the long ball. Vanderbilt is not a powerful team. This is not a Vanderbilt team that has J.J. Bleday and Julian Infante and all those guys who are slugging 100 homers. This is not that Vanderbilt team. Vanderbilt has hit 29 home runs so far on the year. So right at one per game, but nobody on this team has more than 4. LSU should be able to keep the ball in the ballpark this weekend. So when you look at that, keep that leadoff man off base, finish innings. Limit the 2-out base runners. You do those 2 things, LSU is going to pitch a heck of a lot better because I'll be honest, I don't think this Vanderbilt team is just going to come in here and slug the ball everywhere. Not with the way they're going right now and not with the talent and potential that LSU has on the mound. They just have to go out there and execute. The way Vanderbilt breaks this open is if you let leadoff guys on, you don't close out innings, so on and so forth. That's my biggest key for LSU right there. That's my biggest key for LSU this weekend right there. Keep the leadoff man off base, close out innings, no 2-out base runners. I understand some of that's going to happen because it's baseball. But can you at least limit it and not allow 35% of the leadoff men to reach and 89 2-out base runners, right? Can you at least break those pace? You do, you have a great chance. So those are really my keys. Now, we can get to prediction. Jay Johnson was asked when he met with the media on Wednesday, and this is something we talked about on one of the shows. You know, it might have been, I think it actually was the weekend wrap-up for Arkansas. Talked about, I thought that they were close. Jay Johnson was asked, again Wednesday, how close he thinks this team is to turning it around.
I think it's day to day, and that's not an attack on our players. It's like that's the challenge we're going through. With everybody is really good. Like you could see 6 teams from the SEC in Omaha this year, and I'd be more surprised if there wasn't. Is how I would say that. And so back to the focus, attention, execution. Like that's where we have to put all our eggs in that basket. And I'm comfortable with that because that's how I've always operated. It's just there's not a lot of margin for error.
This is a winnable series for LSU. And you heard him say there, day by day. And that goes back to what we talked about when we talked about the starting rotation. Win at all costs. Whoever you need to pitch them. This is a winnable series. We've given a lot of different examples about LSU teams from the past, or even Tennessee from last year, about teams that got off to slow starts and were able to right the ship, make hay, make a run in the postseason, whether it be to Omaha or whatnot. I'd like to throw one more at you. The 2021 LSU Tigers. They're one that hasn't been brought up much, but they comp this team pretty well. LSU right now is 2-7 in the league through their first 3 weeks. The 2021 Tigers were 1-8. They'd gotten swept twice. That team, you might remember, was 2 wins away from Omaha when the season ended. They lost the road super regional at Tennessee. They won their first SEC series in week number 4, which is right where LSU is here. Now, that team had a few more issues than this one does, and they weren't able to fully climb out of the hole. That team finished 13-17. This team can finish better than that. But like the 21 team, it needs to start this weekend. LSU has been pretty good against starting pitchers this year. Jack Caglione really notwithstanding. But if you go back through what they've done in the conference, they were very good against Evan Sierra. They dominated Cal Steven. They chased Gerangelo Sanchez after 5 innings and got 3 runs on him. They did well against Cade Fisher, got him out early. They got 4 earned off of Liam Peterson. Caglione stung them pretty good. They knocked Hagen Smith out after 6 innings. Had a season-high hits against him that he'd given up. He's really good. You got a few off Mason Molina. Knocked him out of the game fairly early. And one of the best plans you had was against Brady Tiger, where he was finally in the zone again and you just hit him. 5 hits, 4 earned in 4 innings. LSU's been good at that. The problem is they go into a lull later in the game. Now, we've said it once, we'll say it again. Knock these Vanderbilt starters out early. Do what you've done and knock them out and force them to go to some guys that maybe they haven't seen. And that's how LSU can win this series offensively. I'm not going to repeat how they do it pitching because I've already done that. So there's your path. It is winnable. And I will tell you right now, it would not surprise me at all if LSU wins this series against Vanderbilt. I would not be surprised that if we're wrapping up this series on the weekend in a full, recap, and we're talking about LSU winning the series. That being said, I cannot in good faith pick them to win this series right now with the way they're playing. I would not be surprised if they do. I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm saying I'm not picking them to. So give me Vanderbilt. Y'all be sure to smash the like button, get subscribed up to the podcast, get subscribed up to the YouTube channel, and be here next time. We'll have you covered wall to wall throughout this series, recaps, previews, everything as LSU takes on Vanderbilt. Stay tuned to Musso at the Box.